Welcome. Thank you so much for joining in and for tuning into our talk about intermittent fasting and how to do it safely and effectively when it comes to weight loss and overall health. So before we get to the talk, just to introduce myself, my name is Lenka and I have a nutritional practice based in Dublin. And my great passion is really whole food, plant-based diet. And that's what I really help people with, to kind of fall in love with this kind of lifestyle. So they experience the benefits for themselves. And whether it is dropping off extra weight or improving health, energy, balancing hormones. And to be honest, intermittent fasting actually goes hand in hand with it, because intermittent fasting is all about tuning into your body biology and into your body clock. And that's what we'll talk about today. Okay, so now I will share my screen so I can take you through the presentation. And as I said, at the end, there will be space for Q&As. Okay, so slideshow from beginning. Now I will just, make this small. In case you can't see the picture, please just type it into chat that you can't, okay? So what we'll talk about. First, I will introduce you to the intermittent fasting and what it really means and what happens inside our body when we do intermittent fast. Then we'll talk about different types of intermittent fasting and how to find the right fit for you, because especially lately, it became quite popular and it's all over social media, and it can be a little bit confusing to really pick that one which would suit you the best. So that's what we'll talk about. I'll talk a little bit more about timing of meals, also what to do before, during, and after fast. And I'll give some extra tips on how to maximize weight loss benefits of fasting. Okay, so what is it intermittent fast? So intermittent fasting is nothing simpler than just consciously not eating for an extended period of time. And you may be wondering, why would you even want to do that? Well, the reason is actually very logical, and that's what I like about it, okay? So when you think about it, once you stop eating and you stop digesting the food, energy of your body, which would be normally directed towards digestion of food, it is directed to healing and repair, okay, and detoxification. And that's then where the benefits of the intermittent fasting come from. So now first, let's have a look a little bit at research, just so you understand how this idea really came about. Okay, so as you would expect, first research was done on animals, and it was at around anywhere around 1930s. And what they noticed, scientists, was that in mice and rats, once they went for some time without food, that those animals actually lived longer. And that obviously triggered curiosity, and then the tests were done on various other species, whether it was monkeys or guinea pigs. You can really take your pick. It was loads of different kinds. Nonetheless, obviously, after that followed human studies. And who has done a huge amount of research in this field would be Dr. Walter de Longo. And what he specializes in is that he actually puts people on diets where he restricts calories, okay, specifically. And what he noticed was that if people long-term eat actually smaller, slightly under their daily caloric requirement, again, it actually is favorable for their health and also for their longevity. Then there is another group of research, and that would be about water-only fasting. And there are actually a couple of centers which are medically supervised, and people there undergo water-only fasting under medical supervision. And one of those centers is, for example, True North, health center based in California in America. And they have been open for over 30 years, believe it or not. And they have had a huge success when they fast people anywhere between, I don't know, 2 days up to 42 days, believe it or not. And they actually have massively great results with treatment or treatment of hypertension, then management of diabetes type 2, autoimmune diseases, and even some forms of cancer. So now, how to really kind of, when we are talking about intermittent fasting, it's always important to think about, okay, so what really does science say? But again, it can be a little bit confusing because there can be so many different studies. So what we do is that we look at patterns which keep emerging throughout the research and repeat itself, okay? So for that reason, we do reviews of studies. And in 2019, I can't see really the year, but in 2019, they actually did this review of about dozens of animal and human studies. And what came out of these studies was that intermittent fasting improves metabolism. It lowers blood pressure. It drops inflammation. Hence, it improves conditions like arthritis or even psoriasis, improves even asthma, any condition which is connected to inflammation. Then it helps clear out toxins and repair DNA, and also improves brain function. So I know it's a whole list of benefits, but just for you to understand where these benefits come from, I like to think, and I divided the intermittent fasting benefits into like 3 groups. Okay, so the first group of effects is really that the intermittent fasting improves repair and detoxification. And now, how does that happen? Well, it happens in a way that the intermittent fast, actually the fasting period, helps switch on our genes, which are responsible for repair. Okay, and because of that, our DNA repairs, but also our detoxification improves and inflammation goes down. So then all the benefits which I just mentioned, like that the blood flow improves, therefore blood pressure gets normalized or stabilized. Also, it has an influence on brain health because obviously brain has so many, it's such a vascular organ, it has so many blood vessels that if your blood flow is good, then it affects also brain health. The autoimmune conditions improve, and it even helps your body to fight better or eliminate cancer cells. Then second group of effects is that the fasting state actually improves blood sugar balance. And it does it in a couple of ways. So first of those would be that it helps us improve insulin sensitivity. And now you may be totally familiar with insulin. It's a hormone which our body needs in order to drive glucose, sugar, which is released from the food we eat. So it drives glucose from blood into our cells for energy. That's why we need insulin. And if body is really sensitive to insulin, it means that we need less of it. And that turns out to be actually good for our health. Okay. So also the fasting state allows our pancreas to repair. And pancreas is a place in our body where the insulin gets produced. Then fasting also supports our gut health. It helps our good bacteria, which are important for our health. And also, obviously, fasting uses fat stores. So again, all this together then feeds into the benefits of intermittent fast when it helps us with healthy weight, with weight loss. It also helps prevent, but even manage, and in some cases also cure diabetes type 2. It helps us deal with cancer in a better way, and again supports a healthy brain and arteries. And the third group of effects of the fasting would be that it prevents aging. And something that is probably the key, what happens during the fast is that our IGF-1, what you see the first there written, goes down. Now, what is it? So it's insulin-like growth factor 1. Very technical term, I know, but it's basically a growth hormone. okay, which our body naturally produces and we definitely need it. But through our dietary choices and through our lifestyle and during our life, these levels can go up. And as they go up, it accelerates aging and also supports unnecessary and unrequired or undesired growth of cells in our body. So fasting keeps this hormone nice and low, just in healthy levels. Okay. Then, as I mentioned a few times, it helps repair of our DNA and keeps our oxidative stress down. Again, oxidative stress would be from food we eat, from heavy metals, environmental toxins we are exposed to. And all these three mechanisms then again feed into the benefits we experience, that the fasting prevents aging of all organs. It actually slows down that aging rate and also helps us fight cancer in a better way. So now you may be wondering, are there any risks? Well, if you are someone who has a history of gallstones, just please be aware, definitely consult this with your GP. Then also, if you are on any medication or have any other health condition, again, before trying intermittent fast, do check with your GP. Obviously, also this approach to eating may not be ideal if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, and also if you have a history of anorexia, bulimia, or binge eating. So now, what about myths? Because again, often when I talk to people, people get a little bit afraid of not eating for a certain amount of time or hunger. So they, often the kind of worries which come up are like, okay, my blood sugar will be very low and I may faint, or my energy will be really low. I'll get headaches and different pains, and it just, would be very uncomfortable to do the fasting. Well, to this, I just want to point that they are essentially detoxification signs, okay? And depending on what your diet is like today, they can be very minimal. They may not be at all. However, they can be managed depending on what type of fasting window you choose, meaning when you don't eat, really. Okay, but we will talk about it a little bit later in our presentation, just to give you an idea how to actually manage this. So, what are different types of intermittent fasting? There are. Yes, there's a ton of them. But for our purposes, I wanted to make it simpler and I wanted to kind of narrow it down also in terms of its effectivity. Okay, so the first type we are going to talk about is the alternate day fasting. And what this really is that one day you eat as normal, and the following day you just bring the caloric restriction. Okay, so the following day, which is like the fasting day, you reduce the calories anywhere to 500 to 600 calories. And then following day again, you eat whatever you are used to, and then following day again, low calories. Another type of fasting would be the 5 to 2 plan. And this would be that fasting day or those fasting days when you bring calories low to 500 to 600 calories would be twice per week. Okay, this kind of people sometimes do when they are closer to their goal weight. And the third type, which we will talk about most extensively in more detail, is the restricted eating window plan. And that, I believe, is most popular because it also seems most flexible. And it is really just about narrowing down that eating window. And depending on, what the goal is and what the schedule, the daily schedule is, you can obviously choose the feeding window anywhere between 4 up to 10 hours, but we'll talk about it just in a second. So just examples. So what would it really mean if you decided to go for either the alternate day fasting or the 5 to 2 plan? Okay, when on those days, or what would you eat on those days when you reduce the calories to 500 or 600 calories per day? So on those days, you have a couple of options, okay? You can make it pure fruit and vegetables day, for example. Yeah, that way you will end up eating large quantities of food while keeping the calories low, because 1 pound of vegetables is only 200 calories. And this is what I want to stress out when talking about this, that it may be low in calories, but if you are eating the vegetables, it needs to be large in volume. Because if 1 pound is 200 calories, then you should be really eating 3 pounds roughly of vegetables, and that's a lot of food. Okay, that's gosh, that's like 2-3 heads of broccoli, for example. Okay, then some fruit. So yeah, that would be just big volume of food. Or you could do it a little bit differently. You could stick just with whole natural foods, plant foods, and you could have, for example, 2 apples as a breakfast. You could have just salad, what I put here in the picture, for lunch, and then for dinner you could have 1 cup of baked potato and let's say broccoli stalks, but providing that you don't use any oil anywhere. Okay, if you stick just with these, with your fruits, veg, and just a little bit of potatoes, and again more veg, you will roughly fit that 500-600 calorie mark. So, and now let's have a look at our time restricted feeding. As I mentioned, the feeding window can be anywhere between 4 to 10 hours. And here are just a couple of examples of what people sometimes opt for. So if you are an early bird, you may wish to have breakfast relatively early in the day at around 8 a.m. and then maybe have last meal of the day a little bit early and finish eating by 4 p.m. That will mean you'll have 8-hour feeding window. Or you could push out a little bit of breakfast and have it slightly later at 10, and then last meal at around 6, and there you go. Still, you have 8-hour feeding window, yet it's kind of maybe more manageable within like everyone eating around you. And then if you're not a breakfast eater, there you go. You can also push it and have maybe first meal at 12 and stop again by around 6 p.m. And you are narrowing the feeding window even more so here. Now, so here is our little first study, which I wanted to mention, and I just thought it was worth mentioning because even though it was short, because there were no other changes in the eating behavior of those people on the study, except that they stopped eating at 7 p.m. and had breakfast at 6 a.m. That's all. So the only change, they had no counseling, no gadgets, no exercise change, nothing at all, okay? Yet still, they did lose a pound a week. Here is another study where they looked at 16 to 8 hour intermittent fasting, meaning that they had breakfast at 10 a.m. and dinner at 6 p.m. Here it was on obese adults, and they already were looking, and they were actually looking not only at weight, but also at metabolic kind of changes inside the body. So what they found out was that in 12 weeks, they lost 7 pounds, and also in 12 weeks, eating this way, their blood pressure improved. So now you may be wondering why, okay? So obviously there are loads of different reasons for that, but even if you just go logically again about it, so first of all, there is only so much food you can eat, okay? Because if you structure your day and you kind of plan your meals and know that you are eating within a certain window, again, your stomach and your body just allows you only a certain amount of food. Also, you by fasting and allowing a little bit longer time for that body to, first of all, deal with the food, but then be without digestion, you are activating metabolic pathways which are normally not really forced to be activated, okay? You are activating and bringing to life fat burning enzymes. And that's what you really want for your body to kind of become very efficient, and that's what you are doing through the fasting period. And also you are eliminating late night snacking, when usually is the biggest danger of overeating. So these are just a couple of reasons why that intermittent fasting actually is effective, even just if you stop eating by 7 p.m. So now, question which you may be asking, does timing really matter? Because I did put there a couple of examples with the feeding window. So let's have a look about at timing, okay? The short answer would be yes, it does. And the reason is, again, that we are very closely connected to nature and very closely connected to sunlight. And the minute daylight actually falls on retina of our eye, a whole cascade of hormonal changes happens inside our body. And as a result of that, for starters, we wake up. Okay. And as a result of that, though, our body processes food we eat in the morning differently than in the evening. So in the morning, when you eat your breakfast or when you eat your food, you get glucose from the food, but then it gets stored inside as glycogen inside your muscles and inside your liver. And it is stored there for energy. Okay, it is stored there because it's almost like your body knows that there is a whole day ahead and you will need some energy. However, if you eat the food in the evening, that glucose, the same glucose, even from the same meal, actually goes straight into the fat stores. Now, they were trying to understand this, scientists. So, in order to do so, they look a lot at shift workers because, again, as you would expect, shift workers, their timetable is just reversed, and they tend to eat usually bigger meals towards the evening and stuff like that. So, they were looking at those, and what they found out was that in the evening, really, what goes up is our hunger. Then also it turns out that we become more carbohydrate intolerant, meaning that that insulin, that hormone which drives sugar from our blood into our cells for energy, I spoke about at the beginning. So we are not as sensitive to that insulin. Okay, therefore our blood sugar is a little bit more unstable, and we tend to go a little bit higher with our blood sugar towards the evening. Also, they noticed that our triglycerides, which are really blood lipids, they tend to go up in the evening, and therefore there is also likelihood for us to gain weight. Now, here was another study, which I want to share with you. This study was done on men who had already pre-diabetes. And pre-diabetes is a stage before diabetes. And so they were already metabolically compromised, already that insulin and blood sugar just wasn't working well. And yeah, so they put them on a 6-hour feeding window for 5 weeks, when the last meal of the day was 3 p.m. Now it was quite early, but still they wanted to test this. And what they noticed that what happened inside their body was that their pancreatic health improved. Again, it's the organ where our body produces insulin. Then their bodies became more sensitive to insulin, which was great, obviously. Also, their blood pressure improved, oxidative stress reduced, and they also reported decreased appetite. And all of this happened even though they did not lose any weight. Because you see, often our health generally improves when we lose weight. So this was actually quite important to see that even though they did not lose any weight, they still experience, because of the intermittent fasting, because of the feeding window, they still experience all these benefits. And now this is my favorite study. I think this is fabulous because this study actually was done on overweight and obese women. And what they did was that they looked at 2 groups of women. And they actually, the first group, as you can see, they had their biggest meal of the day in the morning, okay? And then the lightest meal of the day in the evening. And the second group had the other way around, when the smallest was breakfast and the biggest was dinner. Now they ate the same meals, okay? So the same kind of meals. And what they noticed was that the group with the smallest dinner, they lost 12 pounds in 12 weeks. Their blood fat dropped by 34%, which is a big, big drop. And also their insulin sensitivity again improved. However, the other group, they still also lost some weight, but the metabolic benefit, that health of the body wasn't there, okay? Because their blood fat increased by 15%. So now, how to choose the feeding window. Okay, so when you are thinking about, okay, so what is that feeding window which will work for you? I'd like you first to think about your diet. What is it like today? Because if you are someone who eats animal type of food at every meal, okay, whether it's dairy or chicken or eggs or beef, or if you are someone who has processed foods like, I don't know, pizzas or biscuits or ice cream and stuff like that, what might be worth doing first is see whether you could clean up the diet a little bit more, bring in unprocessed whole plant foods, so vegetables and fruits and whole grains and sweet potatoes. And when it comes to fasting, make sure that you do 12 to 12 hours, meaning that maybe you have, I don't know, you have breakfast at 8 and you stop eating by 8. Now, if you do that, you still have some fasting there. But because it's not too long, you are not allowing your body to really experience too much of the withdrawal of the detoxification symptoms I was talking about at the beginning. Okay. Then also, so when choosing the feeding window, take into consideration obviously your schedule. Okay, how will that work for you? Because there's no point of picking a window when you have meetings or you're just busy in those times. Also, think about if you have obviously what is the danger zone. So for example, what I mean by that, sometimes people tend to snack a lot late in the evening. I don't know, your favorite program comes on 9 o'clock, 9:30, and you feel already tired. So you maybe feel like having some comfort food and you reach whether it's bag of chips or a little bit of ice cream or a few biscuits. Okay. So if that is you and you do tend to do this late night snacking, what might not work for you is having that last meal of the day, I don't know, at 5 p.m. because obviously 9 p.m. comes and you will just eat anything. So if that's you, have that last meal 7, 8 p.m. Okay. And also, again, I touched on it a little bit at the beginning. If you do have history of disordered eating or even binge eating, and even though you feel you are fine right now, again, be just cautious of the feeding window. Don't make it too short, and because it could backfire and you could end up binging again. Okay, so let's have a look at the daily routine for that 16 to 8 hour intermittent fasting, what it could look like. Okay. So let's say that you wake up at around 6, 7 a.m. So upon waking, do have glass of water. Your body does need to hydrate first thing in the morning because you slept for some time. Your body did loads of cleansing and detoxification. Definitely hydrate. Then, if you can, try and get some activity in. So whether it's a brisk walk or run or even yoga on the on a mat, try and move your body. Then again, have maybe some more water or a cup of green tea, and then you can have your breakfast at around 10 a.m. Might be a good idea. Also, making it your biggest meal of the day. At around 2, 3 p.m., you can have your lunch, and then at around 6, 7 p.m., your dinner, and go to bed at around 10, 11 p.m. So now, what would be the suggestions of like the meals? So since our breakfast can be really the biggest, especially if you stop eating at 6, 7 p.m., you will be quite hungry at around 10 a.m. So yes, make it really filling, make it comforting, make it nourishing. So whether it's a grain bowl, it can be from quinoa, buckwheat, with some nuts and fruit and soy yogurt, a smoothie, but it can be also great, your good bowl of porridge. Absolutely. So I have that as breakfast and as lunch. Again, make it something worthwhile. So can be scrambled tofu, can be even leftover of chilies, curries, whatever you have from last night, some potatoes. And if you are someone who likes to treat or, something a little bit sweet, now would be, in my opinion, time to have it because of the metabolic changes. Because as we said, later in the day, your body just doesn't process that well. And it can even cause and trigger cravings and bigger blood sugar spikes later in the day. And then dinner, if you have that at around 6 p.m., now here, I'd like to suggest that you start with a starter, okay? Because if you recall from the shift workers studies, they noticed that we do tend to be hungry that our hunger tends to be biggest in the evening. So to counteract that, have and start your meal with a large bowl of salad. Okay, if you do, you start filling up that stomach on caloric, really low caloric foods. So then there's less space left for all the rest what follows. Okay, because since you are hungry, you will end up eating loads of food. So then it's your job to dilute the food with foods which are low in calories and high in water, and those are vegetables. So if you can have a salad or vegetable-based soup, like carrot soup, something like that, or broccoli soup as a starter. And then as a main meal, again, stew, chili rice, and some steamed vegetables on the side. So now what happens if you are really hungry in the morning before your feeding window, before your breakfast? So yeah, if you do drink, it does help for a little while because it does fill up the stomach. Some people find it actually beneficial, even some green tea. You can get even caffeine free. The bitterness tends to, again, down-regulate that hunger, that feeling of hunger. Then that walk and exercise, if you can get it there before your breakfast, absolutely fabulous, because that definitely curbs hunger. Usually after exercise, you don't feel hungry for some time anyway. And if you can't, just if you could immerse yourself and be completely absorbed with something, it can be even work, obviously, to distract yourself, okay, from the hunger. Now, help with hunger in the afternoon, PM hours. Again, you need to or try to pick the eating window which suits to you. But try to eat no later than 3 hours before bedtime, because again, your body does not want to digest food at night. Your body wants to do the cleaning work at night, and the healing work, and the detoxification, and the repair. Okay. Also, try maybe and see whether you could change your routine. Now, why do I have it here? I have it here because, again, if it's a late night snacking, for example, okay, we are creatures of habit, and anything we are used to doing today, we are very much likely keep doing. And let's say that it is that, favorite movie which comes on, and that may trigger that behavior, that you suddenly feel like having something. So that's why maybe for a couple of days might be worth, instead of putting on the TV, just having a bath or going for a walk or stay upstairs in your room and journal, or I don't know, do a puzzle or some handcraft or craft work. And it can be just for a couple of days. It can be maybe a week, just to break that pattern, break that ritual. So then, that idea of snacking doesn't even come to you. And then if you absolutely have to have something, just have a piece of fruit, because that is very light and that doesn't take so much work to digest. So now, when it comes to weight loss, now we have touched on a few of these points already, but still, let's put them together. To maximize weight loss, if you could have that eating window, that feeding window, 8 hours, so it would be your breakfast at 10, let's say, and your dinner at 6. Okay, then try and squeeze the physical activity before breakfast. Now, it is actually very efficient when it comes to weight loss, because at that moment, you have been already fasting at least for 12 hours. Meaning that you immediately start absorbing all the glucose from your muscles and from your liver, and then your body will be forced to go and tap into the fat stores, and that's what you would want, right? So if you can do exercise before a meal, that's it. Then try and don't snack again, because you just want nice at least 3 hours between meals. If you are hungry in between, then it just means you didn't eat enough at the main meal. Then also try and get more of those calories to the first half of the day or earlier part of the day. So that would just come down again to, having breakfast and lunch as the biggest meals of your day, and dinner very light. Also, try and base your meals on whole plant foods. Because your fruits and vegetables and whole grains and potatoes and the beans, they are filled with water, and they are full of fiber. And that is what keeps you satisfied, what doesn't actually provide any calories, because fiber does not have any calories, yet it creates bulk of food, so it creates the satiety. Okay, so that is really what will help with weight loss. And also make sure that you get enough sleep, because sufficient sleep is incredibly important when it comes to being sensitive to your hunger, and during the next day. And also good sleep makes sure that your hunger and satiety hormones work really well, so you don't overeat. Also, it helps with willpower, obviously, and helps prevent cravings. Now, common mistakes to avoid. Okay, please don't overcomplicate. Now, if you feel like I have just told you, like I have just said too many things to focus on, no. Please just look at your routine today. Pick the feeding window which suits your routine, and make sure that you stop eating about 3 hours before going to bed. Okay. Also, do kind of what you eat matters, because sometimes what people make mistake with is that they believe, okay, well, so I narrow my feeding window even like into 6 hours or whatever, but I can eat really anything I want. Well, it doesn't work quite that way, because your body still has to process it. If it's high in fat, if it's high in sugar, and very rich overall in calories, it won't give you necessarily the results you're looking for. And then just try and don't eat majority of the calories in the evening. Okay. And to sum it all up, so pick the intermittent fasting that suits your lifestyle and also your medical history, obviously. Eat most calories by 3 p.m. and make your meals nourishing based on whole plant foods. Okay. So now, if you're looking for any more information, okay, or any tips and ideas about weight loss or about healthy plant-based diet, and how to incorporate more fruits and veg and plant foods into your meals, you can visit my website, planthappygirl.com. You will find there also different videos and different recipes, even sugar-free treats, as well as some information about different programs I run. And you can also find me on Instagram or Facebook. Okay. So thank you very much. Now I will stop sharing and also stop recording. Sorry.